Hey guys, welcome back to the compound. So I recently got the new Hammond collection Ceratosaurus off of Amazon, and I haven't even taken it out of the box yet, and I can already tell that this is going to be a great figure to enhance the details on. It's got lots of nicely sculpted details all over that can really pop with just a few extra paint apps. Fortunately, Mattel has done a pretty decent job on the deco on this, so in terms of paint apps, it will only require some minor airbrushing, some washes, and a few extra paint apps on the face to really take it to the next level. So there are some things that paint just can't fix, and that is these ridiculously huge teeth that this thing has. You know, they are something else, man. This figure would be a 10 out of 10 for me if it weren't for the derpy, cartoony teeth. So I'll have to address those and try to make them look less ridiculous. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but before I even do the teeth, I'm going to just get this thing painted, and then I'll address those later on in the video, and I'll come up with something that will hopefully make them look less goofy looking like that. But before we get started on the teeth, we're going to focus just on the painting first. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything situated and ready, and we'll start slinging some paint and take this guy to the next level. So approaching the painting of this figure, I kind of want to keep it super easy for everybody involved. That way, if you're following along, you can do this. But I'm gonna not gonna be doing anything super crazy or complicated. My first step, I really want to just continue that red paint down the length of the body. So I'm gonna break out the airbrush for this, and I'll go in with some red ink. This is from Daler Rowney, and it's transparent, so it won't cover up the brown markings. I still want those to kind of show through. So I'll just lay the red paint down real thin and see if I can get everything to sort of blend together with the factory red on there. And then once I get the red paint built up, I'm just going to go back in with a paper towel and wipe away some of the red paint off of the raised areas so the lighter colored pebbles and scales can pop through. So with that done, now I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol on a piece of paper towel, and I'm going to wipe down the figure on the areas that I haven't painted yet. This will just sort of remove any residue from the factory, like mold release and stuff like that, that may prevent the wash from actually sticking to the plastic. So with the figure wiped down, now I'm going to grab some Vallejo Sepia Game Wash, and any kind of sepia wash will work. This is just what I happen to have on hand. And I'm going to start to wash the figure in sections, all over the body pretty much. I was going to use a black wash, but I tested the black wash out and it was just a little too intense and it kind of looked odd. So instead, I think the brown tone of the sepia wash will work better against the yellowish skin tone. So the goal here is to get all that wash down into the recessed areas, and work at little sections at a time, making sure to get it down into all the little cracks and articulation spots. And then once you get one leg covered, and take a hair dryer or a heat gun and quickly dry the area so the wash will set, and that way it's less likely to get wiped off when we go in to remove the wash off the raised areas. Now that the wash is sort of dried, I'll go back in with a few different things. So I like to use Q-tips and paper towels and a little bit of rubbing alcohol to remove the wash off the raised areas. So you can go back and forth with Q-tips and paper towels or an old washcloth, really whatever works for you. Just whatever helps you scrub the wash off the raised areas. The Q-tips are good for little tight spots, and obviously paper towels for the larger areas. But once you get one spot done, just continue around the figure until everything is covered in the wash and all of the details start to pop. With the wash on the body done, now I'm going to grab some very thin off-white mixed with a little yellow ochre to try and roughly match the color of the body. I'm not worried about matching it spot on because I still need to apply a wash to the face, but these thin stripes are sort of going to be a guide for me to use later when I reapply them after I've done the face wash. So it's key here to really thin the paint down so when you apply it, they don't have a chalky appearance, because this color paint, it's like a beige color, really has a tendency to dry chalky. So it's best to go in real thin and just kind of build up thin layers at a time. That way you have a nice clean finish to it. So with that done, I'll grab some Citadel Flesh Shade and I'll use that on the red areas. And unlike the body, I'm not going to wipe off this wash. I'm going to leave it on and let it dry. The flesh tone shade really complements the red skin really well, and it adds some warmth and some shading to certain areas, and I'll also apply it on the lower jaw as well. I also want to add some light pale skin tone in between some of the smaller scales on the lower jaw. And to get into these little tight areas, I found that it works really great to just kind of gently wet the surface with just some water and a brush, and then ever so lightly take a very small amount of like a thin down paint, whatever color you want to use, on the end of a fine tip brush and just lightly touch the area you want filled in. The paint will sort of naturally wash and spread into those areas and fill them in. It might take a few tries to get it just right, but it's a nice way to add some depth to the skin tone without having to sit there and try to hand paint each little tiny line. So as I mentioned earlier about the teeth, they are so terrible looking, and it just really makes the face look super silly. So I started to think what to do about it, and I didn't want to sharpen them because that never seems to go right for me. So I took an X-Acto knife and I carefully cut the top row of teeth off, and just with those teeth gone, you can see just how much better the head looks without those big derpy teeth hanging over the side. So I managed to get the row of teeth off still intact, and my plan is to glue them on the inside of the mouth so they don't stick out and hang out and look like giant bananas. Now, the only downside to this is that they are still so blunt that the mouth won't fully close anymore, but honestly, I would take the mouth not closing flush over the derpy dentures hanging over the side and just sticking out like a sore thumb. So I've got the teeth glued down and it looks way better than before. So all that's really left to do is paint the teeth, and for that I'm just going to give them a simple wash in transparent yellow ochre and then take a Q-tip and wipe off a majority of the paint. And once that's dry, I'll give the mouth a wash with Citadel Flesh Shade and then gloss it up with some gloss Mod Podge. Last little detail you can do that I forgot to mention is just take very different shades of red, and you want to just accent and highlight some of the scales on the head just to kind of give it some color variation. And honestly, there's so much detail on this figure that you could spend hours picking it out, but as for me and this repaint, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Now, you can really tell the difference between these two with this before and after shot. It's just insane and amazing what a little Jurassic ingenuity and some paint and some washes can do to take a figure to the next level. So hopefully you guys found this video useful and inspiring, and if you give this a shot, remember to tag me over on Instagram at the Jurassic Park Compound, because I always love seeing the stuff that you guys can come up with. As always, if you crave more Jurassic related content, you know where to find it. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you around the compound.